Just another night in paradise. The sun was just setting around 8 p.m, and I was just prepping dinner when the gas went out, literally stopping my stir-fry cold. Fantastic. I poked at the burner a few times, turned the dial on, and off nothing. Right, the electric hot plate then. Not as good, but it'll do in a pinch. I flicked on the hot plate, splashed an extra dollop of red in the pan, and topped up my almost empty glass while I was at it, then padded over to the lounge to fish my phone out of my bag to call maintenance engaged. That's odd. Maintenance is usually desperate for someone, anyone, to talk to. Set an alarm to try later. This day seriously needs to end. I'd just survived a marathon of difficult client meetings and was attempting to decompress with my favourite hobbies. Had just put the pastry puffs in the oven at 200°C, trying to reproduce Mum's famous, or infamous, if your waistline was an issue, chocolate eclairs, a family specialty handed down by Mum since they were cooking on open fires in caves. In my new electric oven, thankfully part of the building's staged upgrade from fossil fuels, so still cooking, I hoped. I'd already changed out of my Zoom Teams appropriate work shirt and slipped into a much more comfortable flowy blouse. Instead of cleaning it off, I significantly upgraded up my makeup. Well, if you can't look pretty for yourself, what's the point? Moved the pony from low on the nape to high. It felt happier there. My heels were sitting neglected on the lounge with my lightweight summer jacket, seemingly trying, teetily at the moment, to get me to achieve the total look. Now, I was looking forward to a gloriously mundane Friday night, streaming cheesy rom-coms with my only companions being a stir-fry, wine, and chocolate. Work is not even in the top 100 thoughts. Perfect. I glided back to the kitchen in stockinged feet, poked at the stir-fry until the sliced meat had surrendered and turned the right shade, then dumped the whole lot into a bowl I'd preloaded with salad, carried it and my wine glass over to the lounge, settled onto the couch, and had to immediately readjust my skirt that had decided to use the moment my hands were full to explore territories north of its allocated space. I swear some skirts seem to have a personal vendetta against gravity. Be alert, not alarmed, I had just raised the first bite of beef and lettuce to my mouth when, whoop whoop, evacuate now, evacuate now. The building's internal speakers blared so loudly, I bit the end of the fork and dropped the food back into the bowl. Probably another drill, I mumbled, rubbing my tongue while checking for fatal tongue or lip impalements. I was just starting to compose a poisonous Dear Building Manager letter in my mind when there was a knock on the door. That's not usual. Not in a building with this level of security, the kind I'm paying through the nose for. I set down my glass and cautiously checked the door camera. Firemen. Actual firemen. Straight from central casting with bright yellow helmets and oversized yellow clothes with high-vis stripes. I did a quick mirror check, blouse tidy, skirt presentable, hair passable, makeup, well, it wasn't good makeup, but I'd seen worse on a Friday night Woolies run. The fireys would have too. I opened the door. Excuse me, ma'am, you need to evacuate. There's a fire threatening the gas line, and the main pipe runs along this wall right behind us. He gestured over his shoulder. We've cut the gas, but an explosion is still possible. Is there anyone else in the apartment? No, I said, my voice a little higher than usual. Okay, you have to go now. I have puffs in the oven, I said rather stupidly, and no shoes on. He looked at me and grinned, or was that grimaced, with the experience of a man that had heard every possible reason for not overcoming inertia. Don't worry about the pastry. Electricity's getting cut to emergency lights only as soon as your super gets his act together. Where are your shoes? Just there. I pointed toward the lounge, next to my jacket. Okay, grab them and let's go. For the paperwork, this apartment's registered to Albert Marks. Brother, sister, I blurted as my mind grasped for lifeline, still thinking pastry, eclairs, Claire. Right then, the lights flickered and died, as if the building itself was head-slapping me for the outrageous lie, to be replaced by that ghostly green emergency lighting that makes everyone look like walking dead extras. The fireman, clearly misinterpreting the panic, continued kindly while noting Claire against the printed 7B. Albert Marks on his form. Don't worry, this is what we do, and we just want you to be safe. Please make your way down the south stairway, he pointed discreetly. One of my colleagues will sort you out at the exit. I put my heels and jacket on, slung my bag over my shoulder, and headed for the stairs. Now all of this, while dramatic and rarely within the bounds of expected Friday night activities, probably sounds perfectly normal. And it would be, except that I am Albert Marks, and along with my cooking and rom-com addiction, I unwind best in a wardrobe that would surprise my tailor and as far as I know, all my friends. I'm now heading outside my building in a very professional-looking skirt suit. Tights, heels, lingerie, sparkly accessories, the lot. Before today, I'd never been outside my apartment dressed before. I really, really hoped it would get dark quickly. Baby, it's cold outside the south stairwell was already crowded with people, all of us filing down in an orderly but slightly panicked fashion. I tried to blend in, keeping my head down, my ponytail waving like a red flag. I was oddly proud of my ability to negotiate 7 flights of stairs in heels without a single misstep. No one else, of course, noticed anything. The evacuation area was in the park across the road from the building, and to my horror, was lit by massive portable floodlights. My self-appointed heel expertise took a blow as we were herded onto the immaculately manicured grass. I'd only ever worn these in my apartment, on nice flat carpet and hardwood. Walking here turned out to be a special kind of punishment. Every step was a gamble, sink, wobble, or snap. How women do this on purpose, I will never know. I did get a method working. Toe down first, weight distributed carefully, hoping the spike wouldn't sink into the earth and send me tumbling. It felt awkward, and I have no idea what others saw, but I bet the word natural was not mentioned. I found a relatively clear spot, on hard ground near the edge of the crowd, and tried to look casual, like I evacuated buildings in heels all the time. I stood there, watching the human collage pass by, and realised I wasn't the most embarrassingly dressed by a long shot. Some of my neighbours in slippers, someone with a houseplant under their arm, a jogger caught mid-shower, precariously in a towel, had one of the young policewomen scrambling to find actual clothes. Senior couples and singles, huddling together, silently collecting gossip like fallen coins. Old Mr. Henderson wandered past in a fluffy bathrobe and pyjama pants. He did give me a wave, but he was waving at everyone else, so I didn't take it personally. Men glanced, shrugged, and kept talking about the warehouse fire, their kids, and trying to watch the big bash on their phones. Women looked with a more complex filter, curiosity, assessment, and sometimes a generous smirk. I tried for a face that said, I belong here, and mostly succeeded. My heels education was not yet over. Standing in heels in a crowd is a performance. You're both the show and the stage. After about 10 minutes, my calf muscles and toes were in full-blown argument about who needed the most help. I switched my weight from foot to foot in a futile effort to ease the growing ache. I was just looking for a spot where I could successfully sit down when a bullhorn sounded.
Level 7. Over here, please. Level 7. Residence.
Our floor warden wants to mark the roll mace so much for hiding till it was over. Joan marched through the crowd with her clipboard held like a ceremonial staff. 50-something, sharp bob haircut, reading glasses on a lanyard, the energy of a woman who alphabetizes her spices and knows exactly when your parcel was misdelivered. And crucially someone who definitely knew who lived on our floor. She spotted me instantly. Claire, dear, over here. She must have the Fieries notes. I turned with what I hoped was a serene, feminine smile, rather than the rictus of a man silently screaming in 3 separate octaves. She gave me one look that went from my heels to my blouse to my face, paused, and then landed on my posture, like she was checking the tension in a bridge cable. Then she smiled warmly. Oh, good girl, she said under her breath, soft enough, only I could hear. You're doing beautifully. My heart stuttered. She knows, but her body language said, don't panic. You're safe. I shuffled over, holding my jacket across me like a shield. She clicked her pen, businesslike again. Now, I've accounted for most of you. Just to confirm, she looked up at me with perfectly innocent eyes. You're Albert's sister, Claire, yes? Her tone was cordial, but her eyebrows said, I know exactly what's going on, darling, and I am choosing not to make this anyone else's business. Yes, I said, more confidently than I felt. That's me. Lovely. She wrote it down with a flourish. A flourish that absolutely did not belong on a clipboard unless it was secretly code for, I've adopted you now. A couple of other neighbours drifted over. Elise from 7D squinted at me. I didn't know Albert had a sister. He doesn't talk about family much, I said. True, she admitted. Her boyfriend, Mark from 7G, nodded at me politely, with clearly no recognition. Elise gave me the kind of thoughtful look women give each other when trying to determine hairdresser quality or whether someone is lying. You're Albert's sister? She asked. Yes, I confirmed, smooth as gravel. Claire, from Interstate. Claire? She repeated, the question softer now. Your brother isn't here? No, just me, I said, which is simultaneously true and misleading. Oh, wow, you two don't look alike at all. No words for that. Not sure if I should be insulted or happy. Joan clapped her hands once, cutting off further interrogation. Right. 7 is accounted for, she announced loudly. Everyone, stay together. I'll let you know what is happening as soon as they tell me. The rumours I'm hearing lean towards us not getting back in tonight. The warehouse fire is out, but nobody is sure what the gas situation is. If you want to make your own arrangements, just let me know so I can cross you off the list. As she turned, she gave me a tiny wink, a protective wink, the kind a mum gives the kid who smuggled a frog into class and she's choosing not to expose. Don't worry, love, she murmured as she passed behind me. You're doing fine. And just like that, crisis over. Some people knew. Some suspected. Everyone's too distracted to care. The cluster held together while everyone was discussing what to do next. I moved a safe distance away, head down, jacket tight around me, feet aching and heels still wobbling, but suddenly far less alone. Who was that lady I saw you with last night? That was no lady, that was me. I thought I was being clever, staying away from the crowd. Less attention, fewer eyes. Instead, I walked directly into the bright circle of light, belonging to Channel 5's very energetic field reporter. Hi, I'm Michelle. Can we grab you for a quick interview with Channel 5 Live? I wittily responded while brushing a phantom loose hair away from my face. Don't worry, you look great. She didn't wait for a completed answer. A microphone was already in my face. Mrs. Sorry, your name? Claire Marks, I managed to breath out. Michelle turned to the camera. Thank you, John. I'm here live with Claire Marks, a resident of the building behind us where a gas line fire has forced a full evacuation. Claire, can you tell us what happened? I blinked into the camera. Somewhere in Australia, maybe multiple somewheres, people were watching this. I was making dinner, the gas went out, and then the fire brigade knocked on my door and told me to leave. So, I left. Were you frightened? More annoyed, honestly. I didn't get to eat my dinner and I had started my eclairs in the oven. And you came out in such a lovely outfit, so brave to face an emergency in heels. I was now painfully aware of every part of my body, the wiggle of the skirt, the sway of the blouse, the heels threatening to betray me. I smiled, acknowledging the compliment with a confidence I didn't really have. Well, you know, no time to change. What was it like being rushed out of your home so suddenly? The firemen were very professional, and I hope my eclairs don't explode. Michelle laughed. Well, hopefully they'll have you back inside soon and you can salvage them. Thanks so much for talking with us, Claire. She turned back to the camera, beaming. Well, you heard it here first. Claire from the Park Street Tower hopes her eclairs survive the night. The light switched off. Michelle turned towards me with a genuine smile and said, Thanks, Claire. You're a natural. Can we do follow-up? Sorry, only here for the weekend oak. Pity. Thanks again. Might see you later. Michelle and the camera operator moved off toward another cluster of residents. I stood there for a moment, slightly dazed. I'd just been on live television. In a skirt. Oh, what a night. An hour later, it became clear we weren't going back inside tonight. The fire brigade was still working, and someone official-looking announced that alternative accommodation had been arranged. They herded us toward a fleet of buses. I found a seat near the back of my allocated transport and stared out the window as we drove to a hotel across the suburb. My feet throbbed. I slipped my heels off under the seat and wiggled my toes. Something I had seen my girlfriends do. The relief was exquisite. More heels education. They are not as much fun when you have to wear them. At the hotel reception, Name? Asked the clerk. I coughed. Sorry, Claire Marks. You'll find me under Albert Marks. 7B. Sister. It was getting easier. I'll start believing it soon. He checked his list compiled by the wardens. Ah, here you are. Well, the singles are bunking 2 to a room. You'll be sharing with another single female resident. That okay? Is it? Absolutely not. I wanted to say, I'm not actually a single female, but that was a conversation best had never. Sure, I heard myself say. You'll be sharing with a Miss Talia Greaves. Talia showed up at my elbow in a burst of energy that made me feel like a solemn Victorian governess by comparison. Oh good, she said. You're my roomie. I hate being on my own when stuff like this happens. She said this like she'd been through 5 divorces and 3 cyclones. You don't mind sharing, right? I'm super chill. I nodded. The only safe option. Totally fine. OMG, I love your heels. Thanks, I said, contemplating giving them to her with full enthusiastic assent coming from my feet. She looped her arm through mine like we'd been best friends since preschool, and we headed to the lift. The door of the room clicked open to reveal one queen bed. Classic hotel chaos, Talia said cheerfully, already dropping her bag. I can take looking around the sparse room, chair if you want. No, it's fine. We can share. It's big enough. I don't kick, but I do steal blankets. That was reassuring in the least reassuring way possible. She looked at me expectantly, then brightened. Oh, I'll get changed first. I get overheated when I'm stressed. Before I could even pretend to object, she grabbed a tiny bundle of fabric from her bag and ducked into the bathroom. I exhaled for the first time in 10 minutes. Right, I needed to change too, somehow. The bathroom door opened. Talia emerged. In a onesie. Except calling it a onesie was generous. It was barely there satin, cut high enough that it probably had its own weather system, with lace straps that did absolutely nothing to protect modesty or my blood pressure. I scanned the room for anything that would let me avoid spontaneous heart failure. My eyes landed on a shapeless brown spot on the wall-to-wall carpet. Mold. Perfect. Nature's stress ball. I fixated on it like it was the focal point of a meditation exercise. In, out, don't panic. Sorry it's so tiny, she said breezily. It's the only thing I sleep in that doesn't twist. You're cool with this, right? My brain had entered the blue screen of death phase. Totally, I said in a strangled whisper, while staring at the mold patch like it was the Holy Grail. Your turn, she chirped, plopping onto the bed. My turn. Great. I tried to look like someone who routinely changed into feminine sleepwear in shared hotel rooms with strangers. I worked out that most women don't sleep in skirt suits, so after cataloguing what I had on, I found I had a couple of things that could double as passable lingerie-esque nightwear. Heels off, jacket and skirt off, blouse off, hose off. Now I was down to the essentials. The bra, but the girdle, and fifty, and the above-knee camisoft, stretchy, long enough to be modest, dark enough to hide sins. I could survive this. I set the hair free and shook out my reddish mane, hopefully completing the look of a young woman ready for sleep. Cute, Talia said behind me. I didn't turn around. Turning risked eye contact. Eye contact risked questions. Thanks, I said, pretending the hem didn't ride up if I breathed too deeply. The bed sank as she flopped sideways onto it. So weird, right? Total strangers having a sleepover. It's kind of fun. Fun. That was one word for it. At least we're not at risk of exploding. True. Speak for yourself. She pulled the blanket up and patted the space beside her. Montclair, I'm exhausted. I got in, hugging the outermost 5 centimeters of mattress like I was clinging to a cliff edge. If I moved even a little, the cami would ride up and possibly reveal more than was prudent given the situation. I flicked the switch on the bedhead and the lights dimmed. Talia sighed, already drifting. Within 10 minutes she was breathing slow and deep. I lay wide awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the small hotel noises and the faint hum of the air conditioner, praying the underwire wouldn't murder me in my sleep. The girdle and bra pressed gently, one of the many reasons no man in history has woken up from a night in a girdle thinking, I slept great. Tomorrow would sort itself out, somehow. Eventually, exhaustion dragged me under. Zzz. I woke slowly, warm, comfortable, oddly, cocooned. My eyes opened. Sunlight filtering through the thin hotel curtains. Talia was curled against me, one arm draped across my stomach, leg hooked lightly over mine, her cheek pressed against my cami, like this was the most normal thing in the world. Oh no! I stayed perfectly still, running a full diagnostic of my situation. Cami, still in place. Girdle, still doing its best. Talia's hand far too close to the underwire zone. If she woke up like this, okay, slow, careful. Ninja-level extraction. I eased my torso sideways, millimeter by millimeter, sliding out from beneath her arm. She murmured something unintelligible, rolled to her other side, and resumed snoring softly. I exhaled every fear I'd had since the evacuation alarm went off. I was free. Standing, adjusting my cami with a shimmy, I allowed myself a tiny, quiet victory fist pump. I had survived. Well, mostly. Because we still had to get back to the apartment building. In bright daylight. In the open, in public, and I still had no safe clothing options available. But for one glorious second, in the soft morning light, I allowed myself a smile. May you live in interesting times. The all clear came around 7, via a text. I got dressed again, leaving the shoes till the very last minute. had a look at myself in the harsh light of the hotel bathroom, and decided that no makeup was less noticeable than what remained of last night's application. Put my hair back in the neatest pony I could manage, without any products. I probably needed a shower, but that was well above my acceptable level of risk. I said my goodbyes to Talia, who was thankfully not a morning person, and made my way down to the lobby. We were bussed back to our building around 8, in full daylight, with everyone else. I'd been dreading this part of the walk from the bus to the front entrance, visible to the entire neighbourhood. People who had known Albert for years. I put on my heels, straightened my skirt, and tried to project confidence I absolutely did not feel. I walked on the paths and kept well away from the shoe, swallowing quicksand of the grass verges. Earned learnings. But as we filed back inside, something strange happened. Nothing. No one looked at me twice. No one pointed, or whispered, or gave me odd looks. Everyone was too busy checking their phones, talking to the fireys, complaining about the hotel pillows, asking when the gas would be back on. Joan was there helping with the logistics. She gave me a wave, a thumbs up, and smiled. To everyone else, I was just another woman, in a rumpled skirt suit. I didn't think I could carry the look that well under full sun, but maybe what I was wearing just wasn't important enough to register. I slipped into the elevator, rode up to 7, and let myself into my apartment. I kicked off the medieval torture devices and shut the door with the relief of a man returning from war. The evidence of my interrupted evening was grim. The stir-fry was a wilted, sad mess. The proto-eclairs in the oven were charcoal briquettes. The wine, thankfully, was still perfectly usable. I took a long swig straight from the bottle. No judgment. It was barely 9. But the normal rules of engagement are overruled by emergency procedure. I grabbed the bottle and collapsed onto the couch. I flicked on the TV, more for noise and company than any great need for information. The breakfast show was mid-banter, and I didn't pay much attention until I heard the words. And now some footage from last night's apartment block evacuation. Oh no. The screen cut to the bright lights outside my building. And then, there I was, full frame, high pony hair, neat skirt suit, deer in headlights expression. The full interview with Michelle. I just hope my Clairs don't explode. I winced into the wine bottle. The studio camera cut back to the hosts. Phil, the kind of man who considered himself both charming and funny, with evidence for neither, leaned back in his chair and smirked. Well, he said, that is grace under fire. Gas explosions? No biggie for you girls. As long as you have a cute pair of heels and nothing happens to your baking. He didn't get to finish. Jess, his co-host, snapped her head toward him so fast, the whip crack of her bobbed hair set cattle herds in motion for miles around. Phil, she said with the tone of a woman who has been rehearsing this moment in her head, if a man had said he was worried about his barbecue, his vintage car, or the beer he left in the fridge, you'd be calling him a true blue, down-to-earth Aussie. Phil's mouth opened. And stayed open. Jess continued, unbothered. People worry about familiar things in a crisis. It's normal human behaviour. Try it sometime. Someone in the studio crew actually clapped. Phil attempted a smile. Well, I just meant, yes, Jess said sweetly. And we all heard it. And now, here's Helen with the overnight sports news. Thanks, Jess. The Big Bash game last night went right down to wire. I sat there on my couch, bottle in hand, the TV fading into background noise. I took another very dignified gulp. I had been on national TV, fully visible, fully recognisable, fully and unmistakably dressed in very non-standard, gender-specific clothes. The anchor's byplay will probably make the bloody clip go viral. Well, I thought with a strange mix of horror and exhilaration. Next week should be fun.